Canada and Mexico, 80% of their exports go to the United States. If these tariffs push Canada and Mexico into recession, which is every chance they will, then America could face a recession too.
What's going on this morning? Ursula von der Leyen's made a bit of a move. She's changing the rules of European debt to enable countries to borrow more to increase their spending, which is very significant, making $150 billion of of loans available to European countries. The question is, will European countries start arming themselves at a proper level such that they can protect Ukraine? Is that what Donald Trump wants them to do? Is Donald Trump playing Europe successfully in all of this? Well, one person will be wrestling with that, and all the other stories of the day is, of course, the great Andrew Neil, who'll be presenting the Times at 1 o'clock today. He joins us now. Good morning to Andrew.
Good morning. Good morning. By the way, it was a Kleenex tissue or a handkerchief.
Was it?
Yeah, I was there too. And she went in. The British Airways had just done its tailpiplins with all sorts of bizarre designs, taken away the Union flag. She hated that. She was walking past. She went into her handbag, took out either a handkerchief or a tissue, and placed it carefully over, covering the tail fin of the plane. British Airways never recovered from that and went back to the flag afterwards.
Well, I'm pleased that Aberdeen, and you must know, Aberdeen taking their vowels out, it's essentially me potty these sorts of things, and probably a sensible thing for them to be back to being Aberdeen.
And they spent millions doing it.
I know.
They spent millions getting rid of the vowels.
Can someone buy me a vowel? Andrew, this move by Ursula von der Leyen, one of the questions I suppose we're constantly asking is Trump playing 4D chess and dragging Europe kicking and screaming to a place where they need to be? Or is this actually all still smoke and mirrors?
No, I think he's kind of making it up as he goes along, but we are beginning to see some guidelines, yardsticks, what he stands by. I'm afraid the brutal truth is this: Donald Trump's America is a better friend of Russia than it is of Europe. It's as simple as that. He admires Russia for some reason. He admires Putin. He'd like to be a bit more like Putin. I mean, he sees the world now divided up into three power blocks. One dominated by Russia, which is bad news for Europe because that's their backyard, particularly Eastern Europe. The second dominated by President Xi in China. That speaks for the Eastern Pacific Rim. Very bad news for Taiwan. And the third is the Western Hemisphere, dominated by Mr. Donald J. Trump, which is why he puts so much emphasis on Mexico and Canada doing as they're told, because that's part of the American bit of the world that he will dominate. And so it's three main power blocks. Two are dictators, and someone who doesn't necessarily want to be a dictator, but likes the idea of being a strongman.
Will this work? Because one question I suppose he's got to wrestle with is if you do things like impose tariffs, you may get higher inflation. The American economy is not impregnable, Andrew. He talks as if America is all-powerful, and it's very powerful, and we've learned a lesson of how not powerful we are in comparison with them. I totally accept that, but there's the possibility of hubris here, is there not?
There is indeed, and because of the bread and circuses that are going on and the fireworks, not enough attention has been paid to what's already happening to the American economy. It's not doing so well as it was. It's not Trump's fault. It's just where it is in the cycle, but it should be a warning for Trump. Inflation still stuck at 3%. They're talking about not cutting interest rates. Tariffs will add to that inflation. Tariffs will also slow the economy. Canada and Mexico, 80% of their exports go to the United States. If these tariffs push Canada and Mexico into recession, which is every chance they will, then America could face a recession too, because their markets will die where America exports to them. So this is a dangerous time for, in fact, we're at risk in America of stagflation, of low growth and high inflation. And that is not what Donald Trump likes to boast about as his, we ran the greatest economy ever after 2016. It's all nonsense. But nevertheless, it's not good. And tariffs don't help. We still don't know what's in store for the European Union. And we still don't know what's in store for dear old Blighty.
I think that's probably very, very well put. Andrew, looking forward to hearing your show at 1 o'clock. It's been great to have you back.
Thank you.
That's Andrew Neil there, and the Times at 1. He'll be presenting it at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and for the rest of this week, perfect timing to have Andrew Neil on your radio trying to unpick all of this. Lots of you getting in touch today, 0333 003 2353. This one from Paul Stockout. I'm a US citizen living in the UK. This is a horrible development. I'm embarrassed to be a US citizen. There are real lives at stake here.
Pivotal moment, we've been talking about it all morning. The US pauses military aid to Ukraine. What happens now? Let's talk to Times Radio's Adam Bolton, who's been making waves with his analysis on Anglo-American relations for the last 4 or 5 days. I think there's a video of you describing J.D. Vance in a certain way that's had 3 million views on YouTube. Adam, we'll get to J.D. Vance in a minute. What do you make of this decision? Let's stick to the politics first of all. The pausing of military aid, did you see it coming?
Yes, it's no surprise at all. In fact, on Pinar last night we were saying it was coming. I think it's been quite clear that if he doesn't get his own way with the Ukrainians, this was the biggest lever that Trump had to apply. It's quite simple. He does not see this from America's point of view as being an existential issue or an issue of values. America is in the historic position of having supported the Western Europeans, of having supporting Ukraine. He just wants to shake that down for what he can get out of it. And what the Trump administration thinks it can get out of it is payment in one kind or another. You know, if they don't supply the weapons, they hope the Europeans will buy them and maybe supply them that way. And also, they want to build up America's kudos. And this is why we're seeing this massive sort of gaslighting operation led by, Vance, whatever epithet you apply to him. He's a massive gaslighter. And basically, they're trying to say this is all about peace rather than should be all about a just peace, which is all America has always stood for. Instead of that, they're more interested in what they can get out of the Russians. So, frankly, I don't think there's any surprise at all in Downing Street, but the efforts go on, as they did in the Oval Office with all the visits last week, to have a nominal, explicit commitment by the Americans to be a backstop.
But that just sounds like it just sounds like a fantasy now. They're not interested in a backstop. And if they say backstop, they're not going to be committed to an actual... It doesn't strike me that Trump is the sort of person to say, oh, what we mean is if a Russian crosses the land they're not allowed to, we are going to put boots on the ground, planes in the air.
Well, I think there are two things about that. One is that for the time being, that backstop may stay in there if it becomes clear that the Russians are going to put their demands to a level that even Trump can't agree to them. And secondly, it's all about buying time. I mean, I think that they know in Downing Street and they know in Europe that the deal with America is going to be over. But we need time to reposition in exactly the way that the Prime Minister spelt out at his statement yesterday.
You mentioned J.D. Vance and his gaslighting. He went on Fox News last night. Let's hear a little bit.
The president knows that, look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
So that random country that's not fought a war in 30 or 40 years might include Britain, that fought alongside America in Afghanistan and Iraq. It might include Poland, which fought alongside America in Afghanistan and Iraq. Other European countries did that.
Yes, indeed. And let's not forget the Balkans as well, where there were troops deployed, and Kosovo, where, of course, it was our general, the late Mike Jackson, who stopped a direct confrontation between the Americans and the Russians. So, yeah, I mean, Vance tells untruths in an attempt to move the dial and also to persuade Republicans and MAGA supporters of his position. I mean, I think it is pretty clear that conflagration which took place in the Oval Office was designed to say to those Republicans, and there are a lot of them who are kind of actually believe in the Western Alliance and that, they had to choose between Zelensky and the president, and obviously, given the political system in America, they're going to side with Trump. So it's to bully people in that direction.
They don't care about... we often talked about the post-truth world that we live in. And, and sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes that's overstated. But if you live in a world where it doesn't matter if you're the leader of a country and you say X and Y didn't happen and X and Y did happen, and they are fundamentally untrue, but push the conversation in your direction, and the whole world has to say, well, he's a bit of a chaotic figure, but he's really powerful. That is post-truth at the heart of the global government. That's a problem, isn't it?
Yes, it's a big problem. And of course, I believe that our government, whoever was in power, and indeed European governments, want to and will continue to hold to truth and integrity in government. As you say, they're dealing with a rogue American administration which doesn't hold those values, but it's powerful enough that direct confrontation is not what they see as being the best approach. And there also is some hope that this will pass. I think, looking at the direction in which the United States is going, it's possibly unlikely that it will pass. We could get President Vance next.
For 8 years.
For 8 years, for example. But they want to slow this process down. They want to hold to their values. They know they've got to strengthen their position. And, of course, at the same time, they've got, economic warfare going on. And we have this man who wants to turn being president into a television event. Tonight he has the State of the Union address, and he's already saying, I'm going to tell it how it is. He's going to announce how the rest of the world is ripping America off, and he's going to get back for the United States. And, he doesn't care who he shakes down. I think the one sort of thing I would give him is that, some people would call it cowardice. I think he is definitely conflict averse in terms of actually committing troops.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that in some people.
And there's nothing, exactly, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that in some measure. But I think that means that possibly he won't be able to push his plans in Europe as far as he thinks because of the clearly aggressive Putin. Yeah.
Just before you go, Jerome's asked a question, I don't know the answer to this. It's a funny thing about American politics, there's no opposition, and the Democrats, or they lose the election, they sort of disappear for 4 years in terms of sort of their public presence, it feels, so these people in this country. What about Republican presidents? What about Bush? What does Bush make of all of this? Do they just keep their counsel, or do they... Because Bush, for example, is someone who does value the Western alliance, who would have seen the cost in blood of the Western alliance. Does he say anything in this world? I
think they're torn. That during the presidential campaign, of course, there were people like Vice President Dick Cheney, Bush's vice president, and his daughter, who made it absolutely clear that fundamentally they prefer Harris to win, and who laid out all the criticism. I think the Bushes, although they have made it absolutely clear that they do not sympathise with Trump, I think there's a feeling that it would be inappropriate for a Republican president to openly criticise another Republican president, or indeed for a president to openly criticise a president.
Adam Bolton. If you want to hear more from Adam, incidentally, he's here every Sunday morning from 10 till 1. He's also here most Monday evenings with John Pino and Pino and Friends. And it's worth checking him out on YouTube, where he's gone viral. 2.7 million views so far. Oh, I don't think it's the first time Adam's gone viral.
No, it's the first time I've sworn more than 40 years as a broadcaster.
Well, is it really?
Yeah, on air. Yeah.
First time in 40 years, Adam Bolton swore. He did it here on Times Radio. If you've not seen it, go and check it out. It is on YouTube. 2.7 million views so far. It's his views on JD Vance. And to celebrate Adam breaking his rule on not swearing in broadcast, and actually to celebrate two of my favourite people to be on the radio with, I've bought you both a present this morning because it's Pancake Day.
Oh, come on.
Right, look at the difference in approach from you two. Adam is excited. Stig's like, I don't want a pancake. You're going to have to share because I've only got one tray.
Let Adam go first.
Adam, there you go. You can have the first dibs. I've got you.
Is that American or is it?
I've got the American pancake.
Well, they are American pancakes. We don't have any lemon and sugar. We've just got some berries.
They're not crepe.
They're not crepe. And we are going to go on to talk about Meghan Markle's cookery programme, which is, it was out this morning. Oh, go on, Adam. Yep. Is it good?
Very good.
Oh, it actually looks